And welcome back to AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. and today I am joined by the women's heavyweight champion coming back from her European tour, Carolyn Rose Potts. And that's Potts with two T's, motherfucker. Don't get it twisted. All right?
Two T's.
Two T's.
Thank you. You're right.
There's no bullshit around here.
Simple. Hello. Yeah, second round on this podcast. AR and I have another podcast that we were literally just talking about before we started. So check that out. Authors Anonymous. Just going to drop that. But yeah, this is my second time on this podcast, and that was years ago. That was before our podcast. That was what started it.
It feels like years ago, huh?
Was it years? Has it not? My perception of time. Let me tell you, I was at my friend's birthday party the other day.
6 months, 5.5.
Yeah, years. But I was at my friend's birthday party and I was like, oh, happy 27th, 28th. She was like, I'm 30. I was like, what? So my perception of time, she's 30. I said, I'm your gift. I didn't know it was 30. So yeah, anyways, it's good.
Wow. No, definitely. Carolyn is my co-host. She is the author of the up-and-coming Inside and Out.
It's been in progress.
Phenomenal. I mean, I just cannot wait to get into it. We talked about it on our first podcast. If you haven't listened to it, make sure to look it up. She is on Instagram. She is on everywhere that you need to find an author. That you need to. What else do you need? Do you really need to find an author on TikTok? What are we doing?
I'm blushing.
And quite honestly, the idea behind the book is just one of those things that you hear and you're like, oh shit, what's up?
My God.
A blend of sci-fi with the whole idea of chakras and philosophy. I mean, to me, we've talked about it before, but that is what sci-fi is. It's almost looking at the religious aspects of human nature, but through science. And to me, she just dives into that type of shit. So without further ado,
it's that minor in political science coming through.
Yes, minor. Underline highlights.
Yes. When I was at my friend's party, I was dropping that book. There was some guy there I never met before. I was like, I wrote a book. And he was like, well, I guess I got to hear about it. I was like, yes, you do. Oh my God. It's exciting. It's been really exciting. Also, I noticed that you have your book prompted nonchalantly in the back corner. Allegory of the End. Check. I read it.
Oh my God! I just threw up a
white supremacist
sign, didn't I? Jesus Christ! That's it. Me too. Now I'm canceled. Might as well stop recording.
Oh my God! No, yeah. Check it out. Same thing. Anything authors can be found. It's fun. AR is funnier in his writing than he is in person. So.
Oh man.
So if you don't like these podcasts, you'll like his book.
Weirdly enough, that's such a compliment. My God. Let's be honest.
It's fun when you can do that.
I'm a funny motherfucker. But anyway, quite honestly, the main thing that I'm excited to talk about in the podcast today is the progression of time. I feel the reason why she said the whole thing about years is not because her perception of time is actually that bad, but she's done editing in those months. And editing makes you feel like you've been living 10 fucking years, even though it's only been 10 days.
Yeah. So, also, when you're editing your book, and your book, as I'm sure you know, takes place in different time zones, because then you're just submerged in that. Oh, forget about it. Time's not a thing. You know that, and you know that too well. Yeah, it shows.
Yeah, and the worst thing about it too is it's kind of the whole painter's fallacy, right? That you really can't see the picture as a whole because you have your nose to the paintbrush. It takes a lot of distancing yourself from your work to be able to look at it objectively and instead of being right there to it. And I can't wait to dive into that. So before diving into that immediately, can you tell the people what the book is about? For anyone that hasn't been inducted yet, that hasn't watched the first episode, what is Inside and Out in its general, in its most pure sense? What is the book about?
All right, so the book is about not having individuality.
Hmm.
Problems that can ensue when you don't know your true self on your soul level, because our true selves as a total is everybody is the same. Agreed, but you got to live how that means to you, and create differences and create your personality and all of these things. So what I did with my book was create two worlds, one extremely virtual and high tech, and everybody was literally a robot, to become not starving by their society. They had to become part robot. It was a give and trade, whatever. And then my second part of my book, part of creation, we'll get into that. Everybody there is super hyper spiritual, and they've lost sense of that individuality of your spiritual experience. And so kind of the same problem, two totally different ways of presenting it, but nevertheless, it comes down to not having an individual sense. That is what my book is about. But I present it, or try to, at least in a much lighter way. Yeah.
Oh God.
Take that as you will.
Well, the main thing that makes me like think of all that is like, with all those complex themes, all those like ideas, right? How do you boil it down into a plot line? How do you boil it down into a story that people follow through? And more so, how have you changed your idea of the storyline, going from just sitting down and writing it to now going through the editing phase, going through the idea of like trimming stuff down? How has that shifted?
Okay. So to answer the second question first, because I can make that short, was having beta readers, and taking that break after I'd written it. I scouted beta readers. I'd given them like a month or so. And so I haven't really looked at my book since then. And obviously, I've been focused on other things, but I've given myself that break, which I didn't do much when I was writing it. Because I always felt too, when you're writing consistently for a long period of time, your voice is the same and it makes a cohesive story. But then I gave myself that break, and I went back to it after that. And like, I changed my writing so much, in the sense that making sentences conciser, but so much more impactful, making things connect to that were previously mentioned in the chapter, but that tied it together in a much more story building kind of sense. So that's been really fun. And like I was going to mention earlier, Paul Williams, just going to name drop him here. He has been a beta reader of mine, and he's fantastic. His notes have carried me so far in how I do that. And then I'm sorry, to boil it down into a plot, going back to your first question, was, I don't know. I don't have a method for how I did that. I started writing with no intention of completing it until I did. And I was like, I got to do something with this now. Like, oh no. So I did a couple different perspectives to show you different ways that theme could be interpreted. And I like to leave it up to the reader. And with having beta readers, I've gotten a lot of different feedback. So it's been a lot to juggle. It's been quite a process. I don't know, if I just did, and I'm not trying to diminish, but if I did a much simpler theme, like a one-hit romance novel, and I'm not trying to diminish that, but just keeping it like, this is the thing. And it would have been a lot easier. But nevertheless, it's been a complex thing, but I've been having fun with it. I've been in the thick of it, so.
What has been the biggest challenge so far? Like, has there been any like critiques that you've gotten that kind of like set you back for a second, but then you had to like, we all have the moment that like you want to hear the truth, but then you hear the truth and you're like, oh, piece of shit. Yeah. But then you get over it because you're an adult, right? So you get over it. You understand that they weren't trying to like hurt your feelings. They were giving you like honest advice, so you grow. But we all have those 4 minutes of, hey, go fuck yourself, and you go kick a rock, right? Look in the mirror, right. Shed one tear, right?
But you let it go.
But you let it go.
You're a writer.
Because you're an adult.
You write it out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Two things with that. One, it's hard because like the critique, yes, and I do have a story for that. But when I'm reading it, I literally said the other night, my computer started glitching, and I was like, this better fucking save, because I just wrote a banger line. And my boyfriend was like, a banger line. And I was just hyping myself up. Like, I felt so good about it. So it's hard for me. And like, maybe it is good. I don't know. But like, so it's hard for me to dissociate sometimes when I'm writing, and I love what I'm doing and I'm having fun with it. But objectively, I don't know if I'm one to say, is it good or is it not good? But who is to say if it's good or not good? So I get caught up in that, let it go, still have fun with it, I still write. But one of my beta readers, oh God, I don't know if I want to name drop him. Let's see how I explain this first. He messaged me because I was just like, hey, like, how's the reading going? It was like 2 weeks after the deadline, but honestly, I'd rather wait for feedback than not get it at all. But I was just checking in. And he was like, I really like how you portrayed the story through different characters. The plot is good. The characters make sense. That's been the consistent feedback I've gotten, that my characters are good. I have good character writing. I'll take that credit at least. But he said, this is all great, but I don't like the story. And I was like, okay. I was like, thank you. I was like, I'm sorry you don't like the story and that you have to keep reading it because I want your feedback. But I was like, why? What would you like to see more of, or what is it? He said he felt the entire time he was just looking for holes in the story. Like he already had some type of bias or he didn't like it. Cause he said, I don't know if I'm the reader for this. And that's another writing tip that A.R. and I talk about in the podcast, is about knowing who you're writing to. But regardless, so he said that. And I was like, well, please continue to look for holes because I want to know how I can strengthen it. And what it was one minor thing he misunderstood, and it offset his entire perspective of the story, which made me think about how clear is my writing. Another thing too.
God, that's I've been there so many. I mean, I was there with you. Remember that one time that I sent you like the sip in? You're like, all right, so are they in space? Are they in the desert? And I'm over here like, what?
Yes.
I mistranslated on the fucking setting. The setting. I mean,
the setting, and I was like, it threw me off. And you know what's funny is I said, I wish that beta reader had gone back to me sooner, because then he's halfway through the story. I'm like, I would have loved to have clarified this for you. So that now when your notes, when you get them back to me, I can read it through that perspective of how my story is supposed to be. But I also didn't do that to you until you asked me. And I was like, well, honestly, this is what I thought. And it was all wrong. And it's just kind of like, shit, what do I do with those notes? Like, and is it clarity of writing? But then again, how do you tighten that if you are giving feedback from the wrong perspective to begin with? Oh my God, it can be so off-putting.
Oh God. I just went back there for a second, honestly. Just like, I'm not at that phase right now anymore with like Allegory of the End, but I just got back to that point of like, when you get that one critique that you honestly have to look at with, that's honestly like, for anybody that's writing out there, believe me, you are not alone. The ego test of like whether you should go with critique that doesn't make sense to you or not is, I feel, one of the hardest things ever. Because there are certain times you have to stick by your guns, that the person you're talking to doesn't know what they're talking. Well, they do know what they're talking about, but it's their point of view and they're not your audience.
True. Audience is important. I want to add, like, on beta readers, you do want to get a range of people to get that different kind of feedback, but no, that is a risk. That's why I get multiple beta readers, because some of the things you get back, one, beta readers might not get back to you. Secondly, they might just get back to you about things like on the total opposite side. I had someone get back to me and they were like, I loved it. It was perfect. And that was so useless. And it's like, thank you. But honestly, I was disappointed. And I was very clear in the beginning, like, please be brutal. Please be brutal. I need to know. And it's just weird. Oh, shoot. I was going to ask something else about beta readers, but yeah, they are important. I wanted to ask too, though, about your story. Now that it's finished, how do you feel about it?
Ooh, ready? I think I could have done a lot better job.
Really? How so?
So like, all right, so like that's one of my favorite things, that like when I was writing it, on Mom, on Dukes, on my dogs, on All Money I'll Make in My Life, I thought that was my Magnus Opus. Like, I thought that was the best thing I'll ever write in my life. Like, I thought that like everything after that would be second fiddle compared to Allegory of the End, because like I just knew what I was outputting, like the amount of thinking that I mean, we've talked about the amount of like thought I put into the book. I mean, down to like the mirroring aspect between pages, between things, and the word usage. Like, I thought I was doing the most in my life. But then just being able to step back and understand like what could have been done different. Like I stuck to my guns so hardcore about that point of view thing to the point that I had to make all those like graphics up for the book. So it would basically cover the plot holes that I left open because of the idea of the point of view.
Okay.
Writing now a narrative, I understand how much better my book could have been if it was a narrative. Like almost to the point that I almost want to revisit it and rewrite it in a couple of years and make almost like a special edition of it, because I just know there's so much like better writing, like so much like better ways of phrasing certain things. And if I can be honest, one thing that like if I can specify with my writing too, and it's actually something that my girlfriend said to me that like really like made me feel like a certain way.
Oh, sorry, I have to add that. His girlfriend. Welcome to the show. AR has a girlfriend. This is semi-new, sort of. Anyways, we're having a moment. Continue.
Okay. I promise you, I just raised 15% degrees in my body. Easy. At least 15 degrees, I got hotter. But anyway, buddy, I can take my sweater off right now. Anyway.
Love.
Go fuck yourself. Listen, anyway, what I was talking about was that like so my writing, as like Carolyn knows, is like very poetic. Like I took lessons from a lot of like philosophers and like bullshit like that. And I remember I was asking her why it is like Harry Potter, for example. She was like talking about how much she loved Harry Potter, and she gets very passionate about it. So I was like, damn, like I wonder what is the difference, like what. And homegirl just says like because her writing is just like simple. Like the way she told me was that Harry Potter, the reason why it was so like crazy to her was that like you just read it and it just like made sense. There wasn't any point that you had to reread the line or anything like that. Remember, I sat back with that and I was like, you see, now that's interesting. Because if I can be honest, my favorite writing, Asimov, you know, Philip K. Dick, you know, the heavy sci-fi that I based my writing on, you had to do that 1,000 times. Are you kidding me? I would read one line, I'd read a paragraph and had to read that paragraph 3 times.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just thinking back now, like, if I really want to progress in a certain way, if I really like, if my audience it's not just a sci-fi audience, like I do want to go for like a more all ages type of thing. So if I'm really going for that, I think I need to be able to simplify my writing in a way that I can still be poetic. I can still have my time, but it's not a thing that I need to have. It needs to be like college level essay dense all throughout.
Yes, because it is still a story.
Exactly. So it should be easy to follow. Like there's no reason it had to be like, you know, like 9,000 like triangles all going.
It's just hard because we live in that world and we love it and we like know it and it's important to us. And this is how we see it. And a lot of times, much writers bring in their viewpoints. It's just like how people go to Facebook to post their opinions. We put it in a story. Honestly, that's the best way I can put it. I do want to say that, like, oh my gosh, keeping to your word, going back to that about what you choose to put in a story and what not. So you said your story would be better like in a narrative form. Well, I know you're writing your second book in narrative form. So my question is then, you know, when I got that same kind of feedback, readers that wanted to see more of something, in my head, I already know, well, that's going in my second story. So do I add more to entice them to read the second story, or do I save it all for that second story as intended? So when you wanted to put your story in a narrative, did that come from the beta readers, or did you just kind of already, I don't know, like, tell me about that.
So again, I don't want to like steal too much of a thunder, but I guess like this is what like the podcast is like about, right? We're kind of like talking about like, the progression of like stories and how it changes like over time, not from the reader's point of view, from the author's point of view, right? I will say with Allegory of the End, like I told you, when I finished it, like I thought it was a crowning achievement because I felt I properly assessed the 2 point of views of a person. Like I said, like we talked about it many times. The thing that like really inspired me to write the book was the idea that, you know, an event can happen to both of us. Let's say that Carolyn and I are both at a farmer's market and somebody like, man, I actually went to a really horrible example that I'm not going to say aloud, but like, let's say that somebody like farts really loudly and like we both smell it and like it literally clears the area out. Me and Carolyn will have different points of view about that. And
True.
like, to me, that's a fascinating idea that like two people can go through the exact same events and take it away differently. So to me, I thought it was very cool, the fact that I was able to convey the idea of two different point of views. But it wasn't until I stepped back from it that, because you know me, I plot everything. Like I know what's happening in, like, 10 books down the line. So it wasn't until I realized that like there were a lot of things, especially emotional motivations, that literally I wouldn't be able to inject in any of the books coming out. Like I already missed my chance, basically. You know what I mean?
See. Yeah.
Like, for example, Zeiko's motivation. You finish the book like feeling that he was a complete asshole. There were a lot of times that I wish I had injected a little bit more of like his past, maybe even slightly throughout the writing, so you understand the pressure that he had on himself. Like, to me, that's one of those things that I now have to leave it on for like the third book, which again, it's like, how are you going to feel that emotion for a character after 3 books? Like, no, I should have put that on the first.
You don't know that. We don't know that. Like a whole series, and your books are a saga. So like, again, and that's where that whole juice honestly does build in. Like, they get the first book, then you have those people that are like, I was a fan first, but then you have people that read more of it and they're like, oh shit, I get why this is a thing. And it builds and it grows. It's just a different way to go about it. But I feel you. And that's something I've actually been wary of, that I've been trying to slow down, because I feel like I've written it. I'm working with my editor and my beta readers. I'm working with my graphic designer. I'm like, shit, then it's published. Like, but so I've been in the middle of doing this and that and the other, and I'm ready just to get it out there, because that's what you're doing everything for. But I reached out to another editor and I was like, look, I've already had some professional editing, but I want one more look of a professional editor at it, because I'm so like, I want it, I want it out, and I want it then to be proud of it. Even though I do have 2 more books, it is going to be a trilogy. It's just been so hard. And that's one of the beauties of self-publishing, is that control. Definitely.
Which I guess is also the double-edged sword, that it's like almost the fact that there is no one to hold your hand. That means that every mistake is on your part too, not just the good things that go.
It is. Take responsibility. I don't know. The way I say it, would be so fantastic to get famous, not even famous, but like rich from my writing, and just live off that and do that. If anybody writes a book, you have that thought.
That's the goal. That's not even the thought. That's the goal.
But like, at the same time, I'm really, and the main focus was I'm doing it for me. And that's why I did self-publishing, was because I've been writing this. It's mine. It came from me. I need to see it through and through. And I was so intrigued about the publishing process and how it all goes. I don't want to hand it off to somebody else, be on the sidelines and wonder what my book's going through. Like, I truly do love writing, as you know, and I know you do. So, and that's why I'm just sure you went through self-publishing, was because that whole process is part of writing. And like, I don't know, I just have so much respect for it and I love it. But I wanted to read you, because you liked this post on my, that I posted on my Instagram about drop some quotes from your book. Because now that we're talking about concising our writing, as I was making these posts, I was like editing my words even still, because I'm constantly always now, how can I refine this? How can I make it better? How can I make the story tighter? All this stuff. But so you pull up a quote from your book. I'm going to read.
I don't even have to. I have it off memory. So.
Oh, okay. Drop it. What is it? Tell me.
I have 2.
Okay, go ahead.
The first one is in the very first, well, it's actually the prologue. I'm going to say first chapter that you read, but it's the prologue. It's Zeiko talking about, so the first chapter is basically regret. Like, that's actually one thing. Like, you know how sometimes like people do the thing that like they'll name their their chapter will have a name, like chapter 1, yes. Consequences, whatever the fuck. Like I wanted to do that. Like if I had done that and was able to do that for the 26 chapters, I would have named that prologue regret, because that's literally the emotion. And I would have named the last chapter anger, just as a comparison.
Beautiful.
But, yeah, right. I thought so too. Anyway, so
I'm here.
So like the prologue is named, well, like the prologue and the whole thing about behind it was regret. And there's a line that Zeiko says, that he says, the stains of blood spilt has lasted much longer than the reasons for spilling it has. I guess you can't wash away memories. So what he's saying is that he was in a position of power that he was able to make those type of hits, that type of shit that you dream about. That it's like, oh yeah, well, fuck them people, eradicate them. The feelings of feeling horrible over that have lasted much longer than, like, I'll give, you know what, to really put it down. I remember that original sentence was a paragraph, and it was like it was me talking about how, like, he literally couldn't even remember the reasons why he felt so horrible over, like, a genocide that he created. Like, he couldn't even remember what, like, the reason was that he ordered that hit on, like, XY people, but he just remembered that he did it, and he remembers, like, the amount of lives that he took that day, but he couldn't even remember the reason why he did it. And, like, that's, like, the idea that's, like, what the emotion I was trying to convey, the idea that, like, his regret for it, that, like, guilt that he felt has lasted way longer than the logic behind it.
All right, let me say, as a reader, I know what you're talking about. I did pick up on that. Oh my God. You know what's funny is that's almost foreshadowing, because at the very end, and I don't want to give too much away, but, like, you know, the line where he talks about that robot that he eventually turned into a foot massager.
Mm-hmm.
Read the book, you'll know what this is about. But it foreshadowed that, where, like, that ignorance actually, I felt as a reader, had shown through, because I did feel his regret, you know, previous, and, like, thought about, okay, you know, that depth is there. But then towards the very end, it made me just be like, no way, that's how he really turned out. And yeah, that does make me want to read the second book, because now I'm emotionally invested. He's played with me. I need to know what he's doing. It's the same kind of logic. Like,
yeah, it's a fuck. And then the second quote is actually said from Jid, but it's in reference to Zako, right? Okay. And again, this is I love the line so much, because, again, the whole point of the story is not just the whole idea of point of views, but, like, how time can change your point of view of a person, and, like, in certain events, and basically just like that. Actually, it's funny. I just had a friend talking to me how I was like, oh, I have a great memory. Like, you know how some people say that, like, their memories are biased? Like, I'm completely unbiased. I'm like, bro, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Like, literally just the fact that you're alive, your memories are biased, because you're like, you remember them and the emotions you had them as you experienced them. And as you're an adult now, as you grow up, you just have a different emotion. So you literally, it's apples to oranges. Like, you can even compare your own memories, because you're just a different person now. So
yeah.
Know what I mean? So, like, what it was,
you can, especially depending on how much you've learned and grown and what you've experienced.
Oh,
like,
with
honestly,
exactly. And that's what makes, like, good in-depth characters, right? The idea that, like, they're actually growing. Like, I think sometimes as authors, we have the idea that, like, we make a character that goes, like, all right, they go from A to B, but that's not necessarily how it goes. Like, they goes from A to Z in perfect linear pattern, but that's not how people go. They go from A to G, go back to B because they had a bad week, then from B to fucking, you know, X, right there to the end line, but then major L all the way back to A, and then, you know what I mean? It's a roller coaster. That's what real life is.
And that's something I admire. I need to work on that. I have that with a few of my characters, but, like, for the other ones that, like, kind of were linear, I do end up just killing them because at that point, that's what you do. That's one of the other things I've been working on in my book, is sometimes I do feel like I'm too generous for my characters. And that's honestly not good in the writing community. That's a known fact. And I'm embarrassed admitting it, because I know that. And, like, so I'm working on it, and just, taking your time with it. But they've developed, they've gone through some shit. I sent you, I want you to be my beta reader. I'm putting that on air right now so people can hold you accountable, because I want to hear about it.
No, and I gave you my word. I've just been all over the place. I promise you.
Oh, literally. All right. Let me read you some of my quotes from, actually, no judgment. Did you like the post, or did you read the quotes? Because I want to ask you if you had what quote.
I'm not the type of person. I read through the quotes and then I liked it. Now, I don't have that crazy of a memory that I remember the quotes, but I promise
you weren't a waitress for 7 years.
What's
again, check out me and AR's other podcast.
Yeah, as we're on it, what is the dimension of the podcast? Like, what is the dimensions for the title?
1080 by 925, 975, 9.
Your confusion confused me. I no longer know.
Wait, Shit, I don't know.
1080 by 1920. There it is.
1920. See, I was gonna say 21 in there. Fuck numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I know tips. I do know tips. I was out the other night and my boyfriend was like, what's 20% tip on this uneven number? And I gave him the dollar and the cents. And he like fact checked me with his calculator and it was right. And I was like,
dog. That happened to me.
It was a proud moment.
Bro, that happened to me at this Mexican fucking restaurant in fucking London. Oh my God, it was amazing. I felt like I literally got it down to like within 5 cents of the calculator shit. And I was like, damn right, like never question me. All right.
Yeah.
All right. If I say the sky is purple, it's fucking purple. Like never again.
I never want to. After solving a math problem like that and being like the sky is purple, who's gonna question you? No one.
Off the top of my head, and we were drinking all night. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I deserve an award. But
all right.
No, but honestly, like the quotes, the second quote for Eris was fuck me. It was in reference to how much Zeko had changed. And like he was basically talking about like how his point of view of him changed so much. And he was saying that, well, the exact quote is, I don't know how I never noticed it before, but Zeko doesn't smile like of comfort. Like he was saying that like his smile isn't a smile of like happiness or like or like comfort. It's of peril. He smiles at you the same way that like a wolf does if you were to greet it in the wilds.
I know what you're
referencing. It gives you anxiety. Like it gives you like his smile gives you anxiety. It doesn't make you feel comfortable. And he was like talking about how like how had he never seen, how had he never noticed that before, because it's like painted on his face.
All right, quick writing prompt here, and I'll try to answer it too. How do you write that in a sentence? One smile gives you fear, doesn't make you feel good. How do we put that in good writing? His toothy smile. Shit, I want to end it with cause me unease, but I don't like that. His toothy smile twisted knots in my stomach, tightened the knots in my stomach.
Man, huh? That actually a good thing. So I think I did it in like 3 sentences. I wonder how you could boil that in like 1. I probably would say like,
it is quite. It's
what it is? It's the eyes. To me, like a good like what makes a smile isn't the smile. It's the eyes behind. It's like the eyes. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
Like I can go like this, and you're like, yo, what's wrong with this kid? But then I can go like, and it's like I'm actually happy. It's
totally different.
It's about the eyes. So like I think what it is it's more kind of like the same way you look at a shark. That it's like, yo, there's nothing behind there. Like there's no emotion, there's no empathy, there's no like, yo, if he hits me, he's gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to another person. There's just what I want to do, and that's a scary look because humans are empathetic creatures.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's really, it is deep. It does get like, oh my God, your characters become alive in that moment. In those moments when you talk about their personality and how they shout what they're feeling. Oh. So much with writing. God, why do we do this? Like, why?
Because it's the best thing absolutely ever. But anyway, without getting into the thing, your quotes. Because I like the post. I wish I could like remember out of the top of my head. Like there were awesome quotes.
No, they were more than
3 of them, I believe.
Yes, 3 of them. But they're not just one-liners. So the first one is 2 sentences. The only locations that exist are the primal directions on a compass. Only here and over there. Inside that is the world. So again, taking that simplicity and somehow expanding it. Taking 2, it's a primal of a compass, but inside that is the entire world. So I did that to build my world building that shows there's no more cities, there's no more states, there's no more country, there's no more sense of places, and there's only primal direction, north, east, south, west, and inside that is their entire society. So that's how I try to describe the world building. Second one, this one is a dude, one of my main characters, is in the middle of kind of astral projecting. He's just not in the 3rd dimension. So it's like the garbage disposal of time. Eventually one thing spurts out, comes in the present. In here, nothing is linear until it solidifies on our plane and we attach concepts and structures and force it to fit a timeline. So I was trying to
I think that was my
describe
favorite.
what it's like. That one?
Yeah.
It was like trying to take that abstract concept of not being in our world and instead being, in another realm, but then describing the 3 dimension where we do have things and they only exist because we make them exist.
Oh my God.
And then, so that's why I say it's a garbage disposal of time. We pull things out, ideas like agents, like in political science, or buildings, things like that, when we need them to exist to fulfill where we're at. So at a very basic example, Elon Musk, relatively a new concept, maybe in the last, and honestly, I don't know much about him or his company, but 5 years, I feel like it's become a hot topic, honestly. And why in those 5 years? Was it floating around somewhere? We just pulled it to fit right now in 2021. Elon Musk, this is where we're advancing. What was happening before it became popular? That's when I'm playing at, and then in that perspective, trying to put it on a 3D perspective. Yes.
Man, I want to slide a thought in there real quick before you go into a third quote.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting ideas, so we were just talking about it, honestly, but the whole idea of memory, right? Maybe that's the one flaw of humans, the idea that like our emotions are tied to a biasum, which is our emotions. We literally just don't have enough processing power in our brain to be able to like store the actual files of what those memories were to be able to fact check, right? Which is, and even worse, we're emotional creatures. So like, what is your immediate reaction about a memory? You go and talk to your friend about it that was there, and you think, what, you think they're going to be a fucking source? No. So you cooperate together, and now you're like solidified, even though you both remembered something poorly.
Differently.
Differently, yeah.
And you force it to fit a timeline. You collaborate, form this idea, and now it's your truth, and now it's concrete. Now it's your memory. Now it's how you function.
Yep, exactly. So imagine idea of a robot, right? That no longer has that biasm. When they remember what happened to when they were 3, there's no bullshit. It's for real.
That is why people in the beginning of my story become part AI. They give up 70% of their humaneness, which is exactly that. Their memory, their independence, their understanding of themselves growing up, and how their childhood basically impacts them and all this stuff. They give it up to eat, for food, for primal instincts, because they're starving. And then you get to, creation. And it's the total opposite. Now they're living in this so-called spiritual realm and trying to make it force into their 3D in a not natural way, in an unnatural way.
Unnatural.
On that, collectively, I'm going to read my quote. Collectively, society began to kill each other, and we convinced ourselves it was for survival. Surviving at the cost of death, at the expense of one more day. So that's somebody who's in virtual, who was in that thick of that war about turning part AI, and saw it from their perspective as society beginning to kill each other because we told ourselves it was how we survived. It was what we had to do for the good, for the greater good. Less people, less mouths to feed. We had to do it. But at what cost? The cost of living one more day, just to escape death for another maybe 24 hours. So, and honestly, side note here, that is mad respect to people that write apocalypse, like specifically zombie type of books or shows or whatever, because that's their entire theme. And we give so much shit about how do they wrap it up. I don't fucking know. And they go and they explore that, and that's a huge bite to chunk off. And it's impressive. So I just added as a tidbit in there. I couldn't imagine really living in that. And I'm fucking writing the story.
Jesus. Again, like this is, I mean, you joke around about it, but like this is why, to me, you get into writing. Like it's like in, I can't remember what philosophy. I'm pretty sure it's Taoism, but I guess like a lot of them have it. It's like the idea of a cone sound. Or no, a cone, because a cone sound is the thing that brings you to that level. But like just a cone is something that you think about that there is no solution to. There is no final goal. You're never going to get the idea of a completion. You're never going to get the idea of like, all right, this is what the answer is. You literally just are supposed to sit back on it and think about it. There's no right answer.
Yeah.
There's no wrong answer. And
that's where you leave it up to the readers.
Exactly.
So when you get back that says their opinion about it, you'd be like, thank you for sharing and getting invested in my story and sharing your opinion about it. I don't have the answer. That's what I want to do to figure out. That's when you don't give up your writing or twist your story, when you've evoked in the readers what you intended to. Now the response will vary, but that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just where I'm at in writing my story. The beta readers, like, it's different. Like, how many beta readers did you have?
I think only 3 or 4, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, right now I have about 3 or 4 feedbacks, and I'm waiting on like definitely 3 more. I'm waiting on 3 more. But the second, or whatever one of the other beta readers, he came to me the other day and he was like, so I've read chapter 2. This was like a month ago. I was like, oh, good. And he was like, yeah, 4 times. I was like, move on. What? He's like, I couldn't figure out this one thing. So I reread the chapter 4 times. So I was like, what couldn't you figure out? And he was like, well, that's the thing. That's why I kept reading. And I was like, move on. It'll get answered. So like that becomes tricky. How confused is my reader that they're rereading a chapter 4 times? There's so much, like, I can't even. I don't know.
I mean, I'm right there with you though. The amount of times that happened to me.
And I was like, I get you're confused, but sort of I did that on purpose. You know, it's a whole world you're about to explore. Please, like, don't think too deeply in it. In a way, it's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to give you something that's inexplainable in the first chapter. I'm going to give you that backstory first. As long as you, again, if you're going self-publishing and you have a passion for writing, let me reword this. If you have a passion for writing, really, truly, go for self-publishing. Because then you do have that time to feel all these things out and explore and develop through it. And then you become a better writer from it, all that thing. But, oh my gosh. In a way, I can't wait to be done it. The beta reading part. I do love it. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't wait to get it published and be like, it's done. It's done. You got what you got. Like, I did it. Leave me alone.
God. I mean, I don't know. There's so much things. I mean, honestly, like, to me, if you're not getting into this craft to truly be better in this craft, there's a million other things to make money in, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
A million other things. It'll be a lot less stressful and a lot less anxiety inducing. But like, this is like a craft, you know, there's nothing better than like obviously I don't care how cool you are. I don't care how many times you've like looked up self-help books and like all this shit, you feel zen with yourself and you love yourself. A little bit of critique your way is going to hurt for the first 4 minutes. You're just going to make sure that on the 5th minute, you're an adult and understand that they're not trying to hurt your feelings. So that minute of critique, that minute when you actually understand the other person's point of view is one of the most, I don't know. I feel like that's like one of the most like, yeah, not only skillful, I feel like the character defining. If you can honestly look back and like take your ego like out of that situation, understand like where they're coming from, and like be able to translate that into your writing and in a way that is like impactful, that actually changes,
impactful and enjoyable.
Exactly, right? Because the whole thing, you're writing entertainment. You're not just writing like the memoirs of like a fictional character and like everything like ties up nicely in a bow. It has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, go back to the Harry Potter thing. You know, Shakespeare was a phenomenal writing and he taught us so much about poetry. But there are sometimes you just want to be a little more simple.
Yes.
Believe me, there's 1,000 ways to say things in like a very like fruitful and like beautiful way. But there's a lot of times that you just kind of want to convey what's happening right there.
You got to know the emotion
behind
it. You know, what are you? This is something actually that I've heard when I was writing college papers about literally just research papers. And it was, somebody had asked me, well, what are you trying to say? And before I type it, I would think it, then I type it. Like, so I wouldn't just constantly be trying to type, but I stop and be like, what is going on? You know, what am I trying to say first? Secondly, who is talking? Where are we? How are they feeling? And then you think about that and be like, this is how they would say it because all the other things you previously mentioned. Oh my God. So that seriously, that's what I've been doing. It's taken me like an hour to edit 5 pages, honestly, because I'm taking it very line by line and just being like,
that's pretty good.
Dude.
That was like an hour per half page.
Oh, but no, I do enjoy it. I do. That's the sick part. I like it. So again, do self-publishing if you like it for whatever reason. But honestly, I wanted to get it published before this year. I like wrote it down, like it was my mantra, you know, like first book published 2021. Like it's happening. It's here. It's not. It'll be here. 2022. It's funny because when we first met, you were like, when's your book getting published? And I was like, few months. When was that? A year ago?
No, I remember very specifically. You said that you're aiming for December of, you know, what we're about to be in.
This month. And like, yes, I've made progress. Yes, things have happened. Is it any closer to publishing? No. But it's better. It's not like it's regressed, but it hasn't quite progressed. It's just developed.
Man,
and
I've been there.
The middle part, and it's still in the middle part. That's it. So God, I can't even give you a release date, but if you do follow my Instagram, if not, do. And yeah, I'll be posting about it. Like I have another thing, another excerpt from my book that's coming up. I want to post.
So tell me, as we're about to wrap up, right? Unfortunately, goddamn, you know, we can talk for like 3 more hours literally without blinking.
Yeah, easily.
But one thing that I've been like just thinking about so often now with what I'm doing now with the current writing stance that I'm at, and just like the idea, because like one thing I love the most is that like even our entertainment still relates to work, because when you do relax and you watch the Netflix thing, you're over there like studying the characterization.
Yes.
Like, okay, are they though? Like what's happening?
Oh,
is the setting, the location, like it never stops, that brain of like analyzing everything. So one thing that I'm really like setting back, right, is like, how do you feel about your villains, right?
Ooh.
Right. Yeah. Because that's the whole thing, right? Like Zeiko was meant to be like a villain from like the very basic point of view, but like within a couple of chapters, the idea is that like you see that it's not, and like everything is ambiguous, right? I just watched that Cowboy Bebop thing, and they do a thing that like the villain is very obvious from the get-go, which I don't know how I feel about that. But at the same time, you look at Harry Potter, and there was never even any question about redemption for Voldemort. It was evil all throughout, and it worked. So what is it? Should there be this idea of ultimate good and ultimate bad, or are things better when they're a little bit ambiguous? When like the good character also has fucked up in his life, and the bad character isn't necessarily as evil as it may seem.
Goddamn. Okay, so I think being too ambiguous, just as with being too anything, is extreme. So with my character, Devea, who is the villain in my story, in her mind, you know, she has forced everybody to become spiritual, not part AI, but there are influences, you know, like she nourishes people. She like crafts the food so that it fits their DNA so they grow accordingly. Now in virtual, an end, they had people become part AI so they wouldn't need as much food. So there are kind of like that shadows that, you know, she is inherently negative. And from the beginning of the story, you do sense that ambiguously, where it's like, I immediately don't trust her. I've had some of my beta readers say that. But in her own mind, she wants everybody to be spiritual, because in her mind, it's like, you ascend. You do these things by meditation, by yoga, by following the chakras and your numerology. And those are all great tools and whatever, but like, you don't need that to be spiritual. You don't. And whatever, she forces it. But she thinks she's doing something good. So that's where I try to give her some depth. I don't want to give too much away. But my good character, Xeon, he was just kind of the poor sucker that got dragged into it. I wish I gave him a little bit more of a bad, no, I can't even say that. He doesn't have much of a bad history. He always meant well, naturally, like was very just like forward, authentic. And he got sucked into Devea, and he's kind of like, why? Like, what the fuck? Like, how? I don't like you. I know you're doing wrong. I still love you, but like, you're doing this wrong. And he wants to work with her and help her in a way. But he's not very dark, even though he's supposed to be my good character. He doesn't quite have that shadow. He is good. And I kind of let him have it. Given he's not my strongest character. He isn't. He's weak. He's pretty flat if you think about it logically. But for him, I think it kind of fits. And I have a lot of other characters to work with. So it's really the masses against Devea, the masses against government.
My God, that is absolutely phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Just the progression of everything. Honestly, like I don't know how else you would treat a story, how else you would treat a character. Good Lord. Like, I don't know.
Some people treat their characters mercilessly, just like done. So maybe that's how you could treat a character. See, I've debated that. Should I give my good character not necessarily a harder time, but more bad qualities? Does that make a good character? Like,
well, you know what? Want to know why I love the idea of Devea so much? Because it makes me think of what actual religion is, right? I remember, and we've talked about it before. I don't think it was ever recorded, but to me, you know, we both went to Catholic school, and if you ask the most likely idea of you being an atheist is when you're like in your like late 20s, is you being in Catholic school when you're in middle school, because you hear all this bullshit as a young age, and you start like kind of just like thinking about the world differently when you start hearing those contrasts. Right?
Did you say we both went to Catholic school?
Didn't we?
I went to a public school, and I graduated with a small class of 997 students. The grade below me was a little bit over 1,200. Not quite a private school.
Huh. Well, no, didn't you go to a Catholic school for, well, no, Temple is technically a Catholic college, but it's not. Really,
no. Right? Well, okay. Yes, but not really. Yes. It was originally it was bought in like, I think like a donation for a church, but it really never held up. Okay. It was, this thing that was bought. Money purposes, agenda purposes, I don't freaking know. No, but I was raised Christian, believe it or not.
No, I do. That's what I meant. Is that like very Christian when you're younger, and then you start like questioning things when you get older, and then by the time like you're 30, you feel like I'm a little bit more jaded to the issue, which I love, because like most people that are like that are still jaded, but they still kind of like the fundamentals are there. They still say like, oh my God, and like, you know, like God bless, you know, they still do like little thing when they're in trouble. Right. Little things like that still linger, right? But to me, the main thing that made me come over and kind of like come back and just like be a little more settled with it is that the reason that turns you off about that religion when you get younger is you see the negativity of it, right?
Yeah.
That you look, it's like, man, look at the extent that people do for their faith. The thing that made me like rationalize that was the idea that like literally they're not doing that out of like spite. They're not doing that because they want to control their life. Is that they understand, because they're human, they have empathy, even if it doesn't seem that they do, that how hard life can be. And in their point of view, they found an answer. So they're not trying to control your life. They're trying to extend that happiness. Right. So to me, that's what Devea is doing. It's like there's this idea of spirituality, but she thinks there's only one path to it. So she's just trying to show that happiness, even though the extent of how she's trying to per se is fucked up.
It gets skewed.
Yeah.
One of the things that my good character Xeon is the same that Xeon says to Devea is like Odebeya, whatever. Odebeya. No, but religious ideals have always far outran their devotees. So your religious beliefs, they've always
son. That's
like people can't keep up. It goes and people begin to question, and then sometimes people question too much, and then you get a civil war and stuff.
Oh my God, that's my favorite. What's the difference between Baptist and like Lutheran? It's like a sentence in the Old Testament.
I think it's about as many times as you get baptized.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Little things like that. I'm telling you, it's like, dog, but you still believe in the same, beard, 7 days, still everything else, but that one little thing.
And that's kind of virtual on creation. They do believe in the same thing. Now, where God is placed is different. God in virtual is the government. God in creation is creation. They're like, we are your God. We gave you this. You're divided by your chakras. You have food that helps you grow and ascend, but it makes you not question anything else about the collective conscious. You're not an individual. You work for everybody else. So it's kind of extreme in a way, I guess. Fuck capitalism and extreme communism. I don't know. That just came to me tonight. Could be that. I didn't intend to, but like, just to run with it, it could be all those things. And that's kind of also the beauty of writing. God, I don't know what my plot is. Read the book and find out. Tell me what you think the plot is. Like, what do you come up with?
Mood. I'm telling you, I got stopped at fucking like my immigration basically for that. That's a story 1,000 times. I'll say 1,000 more times. It's real life. I got stopped at immigration. They're like, all right, what do you do for work? I'm an author. One boy said, all right, what's the book about? I literally was like, I mean,
time do you have?
I'm telling you, I almost got fucking like, pulled to the corner and, for me not being able to give a summary.
See, but that's a true author.
That's a true author. Exactly. Somebody asked you about Harry Potter. We're like, all right, what are you, stupid? Fucking magic school. Are you a wizard? Hermione and Ron. Like, what are we talking about here?
You know what that tells me? They just read the book. They didn't write the book. And that is the clear difference.
I'll tell you. And the worst part about it is I like trying to explain myself. I was like, what's an author? Doesn't know his own book. And I was like, well, actually, I have a podcast and about 90% of us agree.
Oh, little do you know. Oh my God. It's sad, but it's so true and it's so fun.
Because I'll tell you why. It's because I think when people ask that question, they want like a story, whereas like we're thinking about it. Yeah, exactly. We're thinking about themes and philosophy. Like we're thinking back to like origin of like why you wrote the thing. It's like you're saying like, just the reason why you write the book. You asked me about like if I were to ask a fan about Allegory of the End, they're probably gonna talk about aliens and cloning and all the Zako, crazy shit like that. You asked me. And it's about perception of time and like a whole bunch of shit that you probably don't even think about. It's just like, I'm thinking about it how I wrote it. You're thinking about how you interpreted it.
So what is your book about in reader's perspective? Because when you asked me that question, I broke it down immediately into how I wrote it. So in reader perspective, because now your book is published, I honestly don't know what my reader's perspective is. I can tell you what I hope, maybe. What is your reader perspective of your book that you've gathered thus far?
Totalitarian government versus rebel, and mixed in with the idea of time shift and kind of like I had a lot of people saying that it was kind of like the whole, imagine if Hunger Games were split into like a story where you also went into like the backstory of President Snow and Katniss, and they were somehow friends when they were younger. Basically is what I got, and obviously like they're not wrong. There's obviously a lot of other themes that I try to throw in there, but for like kind of like basic thing, kind of like if somebody were to like pitch to Netflix, that is what the show is about. It's the idea of, because I mean Jid says it in the second or third chapter. It's like he's like literally talking to his girl, like, listen, I don't know how we're supposed to win this war. This dude literally has 5,000 times our manpower. Like we have like a couple hundred people. He has millions of people ready to go. His funding alone, like the funding that he has today, the money he can play with today is more money than we've ever seen in the entire infrastructure of this like little development that we have. Like there is absolutely no way we're going to win this. So it's like it's very obvious that is what the story's about.
Right.
But it's also intercut with like a genuine, almost like coming of age story, because that is what's happening too. It's children going through traumatic events together.
Oh God, it's amazing because I hear both sides, because I've beta read it, I've heard your writing process through it, so I totally get all the themes. And when you say a line that there's a double edge, or there's a double-edged sword, there's a double meaning, there's triple of stuff. But when I read it, you're like, yeah, as a reader, it's like, I picked up on that. I got that. That's how I'd sum it up. I'm so excited to reflect and be like, after I get it published, or after like just readers have read it and be like, oh my God, another whirlwind. I'm going to write a book just about that.
Oh my God, we should, huh?
Let's co-author on a book.
Co-author a fiction about writing nonfiction. I'm telling you.
Seriously, people do it. Stephen King?
Opposite. Co-author a nonfiction about writing fiction. There we go. I got it right now.
We got it right.
Yeah, I always get that wrong. But damn, I'm telling you, there's like 1,000 more things that we want to talk about. But for anybody that, again, does not know, Authors Anonymous, our season 1, 10 episodes already up on Spotify, on iTunes, I believe, as well, and it's on YouTube. You need to check it out. Season 2 is coming strong. We are starting up with it, and all these shenanigans, all these little things that we talk about are going to be continued in that. You need to go. I mean, these conversations are always one of my favorites. Carolyn and I have always talked about, like, we're just very honest with like how we treat each other's writing.
Yes.
So it's just always a good conversation.
Always. Yeah. And check out our other conversations, especially before that second season comes out. You'll understand.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's always fun. I like coming on these when I'm not the co-host and I get just to sit back and be like, yes, talk to me. So it's fun.
Again, people, Inside and Out is coming. I mean, last time I said it's coming to you, it's actually about the same time we're recording right now, but it is actually coming out when it comes out. Again, you can't rush good art.
Follow and I'll give you updates.
That's the actual answer. You need to follow it. Like, again, it's not about the end goal, it's about the journey.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? A little foreplay is needed before the nut, people. Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
However you want to take it.
That's a shock value, but we need that. And honestly, more than anything else, one of my favorite things about the self-publishing sphere is that, like, it doesn't feel like I'm in competition with these people as much as like we're all in the same, like, we're all in the same rut. We're at war and we're in the same fucking, like, you know, foxhole, and we're getting fucking peppered, and we're here together.
We're doing it.
And we're doing it because honestly, this shit is fucking scary. Like, to give you an example of like why it's scary, I can tell you right now, my own point of view, it took me like how many years to write this book, right? An average whatever the fuck job is $50,000 a year, right? Ain't no chance I'm making $50,000 a year from this book. And it's taken me a lot longer. Exactly. Yes, I know that's in the future, but I'm just telling you, like, right now, initial, like, starting up, I'm not making 50K off that, and it took me much longer than a year. Simple math, like reward versus like work ratio is skewed as fuck in this type of like line of work. But again, it's not a money thing; it's a passion thing.
Right. Definitely.
So that is where the disparity comes in. But like, I don't know. I guess like that passion overrides it.
Yeah. If you're passionate about writing or reading or thinking about writing a book, literally either me and AR's podcast, especially if you're writing a book, we got lots of tips out there.
Mad tips.
But if you're just interested, if you're thinking I should write a book, AR's Tales talks to a lot of authors. You'll get a lot of different perspective. Super cool.
Thank you, Carolyn.
On Authors Anonymous coming out. Yeah,
coming out. And again, I cannot promote Carolyn's work enough. I mean, one of the most hardworking people that I know, honestly, within our like age frame. Honestly, homegirl has more jobs than Barbie. No bullshit. Okay. So truly, like it's always such a pleasure. And again, like sometimes you need to follow the writer, not just necessarily the writing. And there is no better example. Truly.
That's why I'm saying I'm great, but my writing sucks. Love me anyways.
So again, this is gonna have to be the end of the podcast with a broken heart emoji because goddamn, I've been talking for so much longer. I have been AR. This has been the beautiful co-host Carolyn Rose Potts.
Yes.
All right. Always doing it up. Always knows what's up.
Always.
Follow the goddamn writing, people. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. All right. Follow the goddamn writing.
Right.
Like followers need to be like way up. She needs to be at like 40,000. All right. Let's get it to that point.
We'll get there.
We'll get to that point.
We'll get there together.
Let's get there right now. No, I'm saying no reason to
I
wait.
feel you.
No reason.
Yeah, right now.
No reason
on this October night. It's November.
It's always October in my head though. And I'm saying Scorpio fever.
True.
But again, thank you again, Carolyn. Is there anything else you want to tell these people? Again, for the people that do not know, if you literally just Google Carolyn, and that's with an L-Y-N.
Yes.
Just so you don't get confused.
Tell the people. Yeah, you said it. L-Y-N. I'll pop up. Scroll a little bit. I'll be there. I exist.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
I believe what is the username? Is it CR Potts or is it Carolyn _Potts? I'm pretty sure it's that one, right?
Carolyn _Rose _Potts. All the other ones are taken. So it's long. We gonna remember it.
Exactly. And more so, you already know if you're on YouTube, all the comments are going to be in the thing and everything between. Same thing with SoundCloud. Just make sure to look at the description if you're interested. And I'm telling it is worth the investment. Posts are funny. You know, not only is she like a decent writer, you're going to be entertained. You need to be there. I'm telling you, there's nothing better than this shit. There's a reason I picked her as my co-host, people.
Oh my God.
Snap the fuck up.
Facts.
So again, thank you again, Carolyn. And thank you, MS, for listening. Check back with us next week. I promise you there's going to be another phenomenal episode. I'm back from London, bitches. And goddamn, I'm excited to jump back into this. I forgot how much I loved writing. I can't lie to you. All right.
Fired. Thank you.
I got a fire on my ass. So again, peace out. And we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.